5.3, we're going to talk about multiplication of decimals. And as we know, addition and multiplication have different kinds of algorithms or ways to do this. So when we multiply decimals, we're going to multiply as you would integers or whole numbers. We're going to multiply as if they are whole numbers. Then where does the decimal point go? It goes in the product so that the number of decimal places equals the combined number of decimal places in the problem. Okay, so in this problem, if we look at the problem, we have 3 decimal places in that number. We have 1 decimal place in that factor. So in our answer, we're going to have 1, 2, 3, 4 decimal places. And we're going to multiply as if this was 11,914 times 8. So 8 times 4, 8 times 1, 8 times 9, 8 times 1, 8 times 1. Then we'll put our decimal point in and we'll be done. 8 times 2 would be 32, carrier 3. 8 times 1 is 8, and 3 would be 11, carrier 1. 8 times 9 is 72, and 1 is 73, carrier 7. 8 times 1 is 8, plus 7 would be 15, carrier 1. 8 times 1 is 8, and 1 is 9. So those are the digits in our answer, and we said we had 1, 2, 3, 4 places in the problem. We need 1, 2, 3, 4 places in our answer. Now that makes sense because we would have about 12 times less than 1. So the answer is going to be less than 12, and 9 would work. If we put it over here, we'd have 95, and we know that 95 is not part of 12. So that makes sense. Okay, let's look at this. Again, you know, when there's parentheses next to each other, there's no operation symbol in between. We know we're going to multiply. I'm going to multiply as if these are whole numbers. I'm writing them with decimals, but I'm going to multiply this as if it's 197 times 41. So we know how to do this. I'm going to multiply 1 times 7, 1 times 9, 1 times 1. Then I'm going to either leave a space or use a 0 as a placeholder, and I'm going to multiply 4 times 7, 4 times 9, 4 times 1. Here we go. 1 times 7, 1 times 9, 1 times 1. Now I need this placeholder or an empty space. That's up to you. I learned the empty space, but I think most of you probably learned the 0. 4 times 7 would be 28, carrier 2. 4 times 9 is 36, 37, 38, carrier 3. 4 times 1 is 4, 5, 6, 7. Now we'll add those together. 17, carrier 1 would be 10, carrier 1 would be 8. Now we have 2 places in our problem, so we want 2 places in our answer. So our answer is 80 and 77 hundredths, which this would be about 20 times 4. If we estimated, 20 times 4 would be 80. So that's certainly a reasonable answer. Now we're going to talk a little bit about a shortcut, multiplying by powers of 10. This would be 10, 100, 1,000, 10,000, 100,000, a million, and so forth. We're going to be multiplying by 10, and it's going to move the decimal point 1 place to the right. And you know that. If you have 8 times 10, we know where this decimal point is, and we're going to move it 1 place to the right. So we would have to add a 0 in order to move it from here to here. We think of that with whole numbers as adding a 0 when you multiply by 10, or adding 2 zeros if you multiply by 100, which is really the same thing. We're really moving the decimal point to the right. Multiplying by 100 means we're going to move it 2 places to the right because there's 2 zeros. Multiplying by 1,000, we move it 3 places because we're multiplying by a number that has 3 zeros. Move the decimal point to the right, the same number of decimal places as the number of zeros in the power of 10. So if we look at this, multiplied by 10,000, we have 1, 2, 3, 4 zeros. So we're going to move this to the right 4 places. There's 2, 3, 4. So we're talking 147,500. Here we have a pretty small number, even though there's a lot of digits. We're multiplying by 100, so we're going to move this decimal point 2 places to the right, and we end up with 64 hundredths. Here we're multiplying by 1,000,000. We have, 6 zeros? So we're going to move this to the right 6 places. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. 8,271,000 are negative. And would that not make sense? -8 and some multiplied by 1,000,000 would be -8 million something, right? So that's pretty good. If we are multiplying by these powers of 1/10, in other words, 100th, 1,000th, 1/10,000th, and so forth, we're going to be moving the decimal point to the left because these are less than 1. So our answer is going to get smaller, not bigger. It's going to get a tenth. It's going to be a tenth as big, 100th as big. And we're going to move the decimal point to the left the same number of decimal places as the number of decimal places in this power of 1/10. Okay, so we're not counting zeros this time, we're counting places. So if we wanted to multiply this by this number, we have 1, 2, 3, 4 places. We're going to move it to the left 4 places, so we're going to have 2 zeros. And that's a little courtesy 0 out at the front so that we're sure to see this. Here we're multiplying by 1/10, so we have 1 decimal place. We're moving this to the left 1 place, 796 and 53 hundredths. Here we're moving this decimal point to the left 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 places. So we just have 1 here, so we're going to have to add 1, 2, 3, 4. And then this is 5. 0, 0, 5, 7. So it was here, and we moved it 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 places to the left. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 places to the left. And if you want to be kind, you can add a 0 there on the front. This last thing is just a little piece of information to help you. Lots of times we have large numbers written like in newspapers or articles or sometimes in problems as 92 and 9/10 million, which is 92 and 9/10 times a million. In other words, we have 6 zeros, so we're moving this decimal point to the right 6 places. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. So 92 and 9/10 million would be 92,900,000. 800,000 would be 8 times 100,000, or 800,000. 472 billion would be 472 times a billion. So we're going to move this decimal point 9 places to the right, or we would have 472 billion. These are written as in standard form. These are written kind of in this mixture of words and numerals. I like to think of these as newspaper words because you often see this in the newspaper instead of this. A lot of people would have to say, I don't know what that is. Well, here's thousands, millions, billions. But if you have it written like this, then you know. So that's just a little shortcut.